You may recognise this gentleman. Next up is the Trunky Daddy, otherwise known as Rob Law, MBE no less. The founder and CEO of Trunky, the much-loved children's ride-on suitcase. And we're giving one away later, aren't we? So as part of the prize draw. So I know that's going to be a top prize, as are all the prizes. So, and I'll go through all the prizes as well. Now, since launching in 2006, I know the company has grown to over 80 staff. I don't know if that's the correct figure now. Has forged a new retail category of children's travel products, offering what can only be described as a whole range of innovative solutions that help families on the go, as seen on television on Dragon's Den. Which you may remember that episode, but I'm not going to say any more. So to find out more, please give a very warm welcome to Rob Law, everybody.
Cool. Good evening, everyone here and around the country and around the world. Yeah, so I guess how many people have come across the Trunky in an airport? Fair few.
Yes.
Oh, that's good to see. And I guess I must apologise if you've ever had your ankle bruised by them.
Can we sue you?
But we don't just make children's plastic luggage. We make a product that enables parents and carers to take their children off exploring and travelling the world, where they can really learn and be educated about different cultures and experiences. So that's what we really believe in, and that's the message we try and get out to our market. I think if people have a real reason, a why to get out of bed, you can get a lot more out of people. So for us, that's our mission statement, our why. Everyone in the building, the work, at the factory, come and work to achieve that goal, and that's what we want to try and get out there. And we've developed, having launched that product, we discovered a niche for children's travel goods. So we created 9 other product lines, from car seats that double as backpacks to waterproof swimming bags, that really kind of get children excited to leave the house and explore the wider world. But it's kind of a long story how it all came about. 20 years ago, I was studying product design at the University of Northumbria and was asked to enter a national luggage design competition. So I came up with the idea for a Trunky, looking at a local department store, looking at adult luggage, and found myself in the children's ride-on toy section and thought, well, I know kids get bored in airports, and these ride-on toys could be manufactured using a different technology to make them really functional as storage, but maybe designed and ergonomically sculpted to be fun and functional for the kids to ride on. So I tried to get it licensed to different manufacturers, and luggage manufacturers told me I'd invented a toy, and toy manufacturers politely declined and said I should have talked to luggage companies. So it was quite a while to get the product to market. I eventually found a startup toy company to take it on and gave them a global licensing deal for in perpetuity, really, but they never hit any of their targets. They only sold the product in Saudi Arabia, and it never came to the UK or the US or Europe. And they went bust in October 2005, and I decided I could probably do a better job myself. So using my kind of design consultant skills and really kind of getting a good understanding of branding from working from big FMCG brands, I thought this needs to be marketed as a lifestyle brand for mum and not a cheap ride-on toy for children. And that was 11 years ago. And yeah, we're now kind of about £9.5 million turnover. We export to over 100 countries. And yeah, really excited to be pioneering this new category. There's still so much more to go for.
Indeed. Well, Rob, and obviously for those that haven't seen the episode of Dragon's Den, just remind us which dragon backed you or not, as the case may be.
So 2 weeks after the first container of Terence and Trixie's, the pink and blue Trunkies, arrived in Avonmouth Docks, I took them on, 2 of them, to see the dragons. And it was season 3. Richard Farley was still on the show then, and I towed him round the studio. Pitch went almost perfectly until poor old Trixie, the pink Trunky, ended up at Theopathesis' feet, and he decided to use his incredibly powerful Greek biceps to pull off the toe strap. And all the dragons kind of went out. Richard thought he had an opportunity to take half my company for £100,000. I went on asking for 10%. I was prepared to go up to 20, but 50% was just a no-go area. So I kind of left the den empty-handed, wishing I'd invented a time machine and not a ride-on suitcase.
Yes, and I'd imagine they look back at it as the one that got away, really, isn't it? Because it has been, one of the successful stories. But yeah. I suppose Dragon's Den, in a way, has been a pivotal moment for you. When you look back over the years, though, is there anything that you'd have done differently Because obviously you had the product design expertise, you know, you tried one thing, the licensing didn't work out. Is there anything now that you think, actually, if I'd known that now, back then, it would have made life so much easier and we'd have got to where we needed to go much more quickly?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think you learn a lot from your mistakes, so not making them. You may end up making completely different, bigger mistakes in the future. But I guess as a product designer, I was very carried away with creating more product. And perhaps in the earlier days, I could have focused more on just really spending the limited resource we had, really defining and fine-tuning the marketing proposition for the product and how it looked in store, rather than trying to go off and develop some other products. In fact, one of the earlier products we tried to develop, still one of my favourites, is the Trunky Teddy Tee. So it's a T-shirt with a big zip pocket on the front that the children could put their teddy in, so they could be hands-free with their cuddlies. It was a little bit too early to get into apparel with different sizes and colours and SKUs, and it was a complete flop.
Yeah, and in terms of, everyone says you must write a business plan. Did you write a business plan?
Kind of sketched one out in the original days, and it's kind of a long story of different kind of periods. But actually what I found more useful going on through the business was entering National Business Awards, because that really kind of the criteria for entering them really helps you reflect on what you've achieved, but also helps you really pin down on paper what's in your head about where you're hoping to get to. So I kind of found that process very useful.
So the competition brings out the best in you, but makes you focus actually as to, you know, why you're different and all the questions you have to answer, which are quite tough to answer, but you did.
Yeah, we went on to win the National Business Award, SME of the Year, and Growing Business Awards, and some of those great accolades. So that was a real proud period. But more later on in the business, we're very keen on goal planning. So we structure our year around goals. Our greatest goal is to become the global travel brand for children, and that has to be broken down year by year. So we break those down into goals, measure our goals and performance regularly throughout the year. And
there might be some questions on that. Just very quickly, another question from me before I move on to probably our next speaker. When you talk about being a global brand, obviously establish yourself in the UK, what were the markets that you found the easiest to get into? How did you build up that global brand?
I don't think any market's been easy. I think that the big learning for me looking back now is every market's different, and you think you can kind of sell your product internationally without too much change or fine tweaking, but you've got to look at each market, each country, each culture differently to really maximise the potential you have with your product. And initially, my first customer was the Museum of Modern Art in New York, who saw a US design blog that I was very chuffed that I got onto. And sold a container of Trunkies to them, but we've had up and down successes in America since. You've just got to stick at it, really choose some strategic markets, ones that are going to take a bit of work but have the greatest potential, and try and invest more of your time in that, and then look at some markets as maintenance markets that might be quite small, that isn't really worth spending the time and effort on, but just supply them as and when they want.
Because interesting, in America, many companies have come up with their sort of tails between whatever, and a bit burnt by the process. You think a country that speaks the same language as you is not necessarily the land of the free. So of all the markets around the world, which ones did you find that they were more accepting of your product and you could strike up deals apart from the UK? So if people to target, what would you say would be the most open to ideas and business?
I think you kind of, I think we all find quite easily that the kind of Australias and Canadas and the kind of ex-colonial English-speaking countries quite easy to go after. And Scandinavia is quite often a good market because they really appreciate good design products. And then we've had an awful lot of luck, I guess, in China, which is completely culturally different, but the way the local market there wants to show off their wealth by buying these fancy handbags and copy handbags kind of really works with our brightly coloured children's travel products, because if they can afford those for their kids, then they're kind of jet-setting and it's a status symbol almost.
Well, Rob, thank you very much. And the merchandise and the colour schemes that you've come up with over the last few years are just a joy, a design feature in themselves. But Rob Law, everybody. Thank you, Rob.